All right, guys, we'll get started soon here on the I Love CVille show. Good to be with you on a Tuesday afternoon. Thank you kindly for joining us on the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. If you could do me a favor and give the show a like and a share anywhere you are watching before we get started. Judah Wickower is our director. You'll see him on the program. You'll see Alex Erpy today. You, the viewer and listener, can participate in the discussion. Just share your comments in the comment section, and we will relay them live on air on the I Love CVille show. Judah Wickower, my friend, we can rock and roll when you're ready. Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille show. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. It's good to be with you on a Tuesday afternoon. A lot we're going to cover today on the program. We'll take a look at UVA graduation weekend keynote speakers today. Let you know who those speakers will be. Give you a little taste and flavor on each one. 3 in particular we will highlight that are stakeholders and influencers and just dynamite from a personal brand standpoint. We'll highlight on the program today home prices jumping 20% year over year. Shocking increase in home values. This according to a national index, the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index. We'll talk a little bit more on Musk buying Twitter. We'll bring that topic up with Alex Erpy. We certainly need to highlight markets with Alex today. As of now, 12:34 on Tuesday afternoon, the NASDAQ is down 2.5 points, S&P 500, 1.5, Dow Jones, 1.32%. So blood across the board. Russell 2000, 2 points or more. We'll talk about that with Alex Erpy, see what's going on. Scott Aaronworth of Virginia Beach, welcome to the program. King of Virginia Beach and Esquire of talented proportions. Yesterday's discussion, folks reached out to me about. Judah, if you get that 2-shot ready to rock and roll, we'll get you on screen here in a matter of seconds. With that microphone on and in front of you. I want to highlight one of the new partners of the I Love CVille show, Castle Hill Cider. They're doing a festival. It's called the 231 Fest. Sunday, May 15th at Castle Hill Cider. Sunday, May 15th at Castle Hill Cider. 12 to 5 p.m. for general access pass holders, 11 to 5 for premium pass holders. The 231 Fest is a benefit for the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. A taste of Virginia's premier craft beverage scene in the Southwest Mountains. Spend a day on the stunning grounds of Castle Hill Cider, enjoying wine, beer, and cider tastings, along with food trucks, benefiting the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. General access is $62. Premium pass is $89. Designated driver ticket, $15. The event is May 15th at Castle Hill Cider. More details to come on that. Looks like an absolute blast and a heck of a time here. Let's talk UVA graduation weekend first. My friends, viewers and listeners. So, the University of Virginia has announced some speakers. This news came out yesterday. The University of Virginia will return to its traditional in-person format for finals weekend, May 20th through May 22nd. Graduation events will feature keynote speakers who have become well known to the UVA community. Ralph Sampson will be a speaker. He is the keynote for valedictory exercises on May 20th at 3 p.m. at the John Paul Jones Arena. UVA history professor Claudrena Harold will speak at the May 21 ceremony of graduates. College and Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, done on the lawn. And final exercises on May 22nd will feature speaker Dr. Tyson Bell, an assistant professor in the School of Medicine who has played a major role in UVA's response to COVID-19. So 3 announced speakers: Ralph Sampson. The second announced speaker, Claudrena Harold. And the third, Dr. Tyson Bell. I want to highlight Ralph Sampson, undoubtedly the greatest basketball player to ever don a UVA uniform. Hall of Famer. Basketball Hall of Fame. Remember, the Basketball Hall of Fame is what you do in the pros and also college basketball and or European basketball. So it's not just what you do in the NBA. It certainly keeps in mind stuff that's done in a European setting or a college setting. Let's talk Ralph for a little bit. Have you guys noticed how high Ralph Sampson's profile has been of late? Ralph Sampson, a part of the ownership group behind the White Spot and their food truck called the Gus Bus. Ralph Sampson's name, a part of Ralph Sampson Tap House in Barracks Road. Ralph Sampson, front row for many UVA basketball games. Now the Ralph Sampson, he'll be the keynote speaker for valedictory exercises on May 20th at 3 p.m. in the John Paul Jones Arena. This guy is doing one heck of a job of raising his profile. He's utilizing his naming rights on a restaurant. He's leveraging his profile and his brand recognition as part of the ownership group of the White Spot, an institution on the UVA corner, the Gus Bus, their mobile point of sale. He's got basketball camps all over the Commonwealth that bear his name and likeness. Now front and center as a keynote speaker for graduation weekend at UVA. He's done a phenomenal job of, I hate to use rehabilitating, but improving his brand, his image. And he's clearly gaining momentum and positive traction in this entrepreneur space or setting he's pursuing. He understands the concept of name rights, licensing, image rights, and a personal brand. I'll ask you this question, viewers and listeners watching the program. Of all the athletes that have played at UVA, Scott Aaronworth, here's a good question for you. Of all the athletes who have played at UVA, which one has the most appealing personal brand, naming rights, or licensing opportunity? If you were going to take an athlete's name and put it on a car dealership, a steakhouse, a restaurant, a real estate group, a private equity firm, if you were going to utilize an athlete from a star power standpoint as a way to raise PE money, which athlete, UVA, has the most appeal, notoriety, or opportunity? John Blair, welcome to the program. John Quayle on LinkedIn, welcome to the show. I have some ideas, but I'm curious of your take and your opinions as well. Nicholas Erpe, welcome to the program, my friend. Live on every social platform possible. Certainly Ralph Sampson is on that list. I'm going to make a list of these athletes. I'm going to, in no particular order. Ralph Sampson, I'm going to put on that list. Chris Long, undoubtedly, right? Chris Long, who's doing a hell of a job in the digital media space with the podcasts. Chris Long, incredibly well-spoken, well-read, always has something to say, certainly on top of current events. I think Chris Long, from a personal brand standpoint, you could see his name on a lot of things. His licensing, his image rights, his personal brand on a lot of things, and it would have success. Ryan Zimmerman is another one, right? And this is not just athletes, coaches. This could work for coaches as well. I mean, Tony Bennett has got to be on that list, right? Tony Bennett's got to be on that list. What other athletes come to mind? Think about a real estate group. Sloan Manus Real Estate Partners. The first name on that real estate group, Sloan Manus Real Estate Partners, is David Sloan. Played college football at the University of Virginia. David Sloan, formerly of Sloan's Restaurant, the bar and grill that at one time was in the Millmont Shops behind Barracks Road Shopping Center. He was one of the first to truly understand the brand recognition that comes from being a star athlete at the university. He gets notoriety as a college football player. David Sloan, friend of the program, loved the guy, and then opens up a bar and grill behind Barracks Road Shopping Center that had years of success and longevity called Sloan's. I mean, could we get a bar, a grill, a sports bar called Chris Long's? Ralph Sampson's got a tap house. And it doesn't have to just be basketball or football. Could we go into the non-revenue sports? I mean, Ryan Zimmerman's a non-revenue sport. Do you think Ryan Zimmerman's name could carry enough influence and weight on the marquee of a restaurant, or the marquee of a real estate group, the marquee of a private equity firm? You got Roosevelt Brown Boulevard. Now, he didn't go to UVA, but a local who played pro football for the Giants. What are your thoughts on that topic? Curious to see your thoughts on that topic. Those questions coming in, Neil Williamson, those answers coming in to the program. Scott Aaronworth, Ralph Sampson, but if I could choose anyone, it would be Tony Bennett. MJ Arquette, I still dream about the fried Colby cheese from Sloan's. Bring it back. It was darn good. MJ, I'm going to respond to your comment here. Great call. And then I'm going to tag the homie David Sloan on this. David Sloan, you would love to read this. Fast and Furious. On LinkedIn, Sean Singletary or Malcolm Brogdon from LinkedIn. I think the president, Malcolm Brogdon, the president's his nickname, could certainly fit that moniker. Malcolm Brogdon has some reach and some influence. I think he could fit that space. Ryan Zimmerman from Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro. Tiki Barber from Kevin Yancey in Waynesboro. Kevin Yancey, great calls. Certainly Zimmerman. Tiki Barber comes to mind. Sean Singletary was launching basketball camps around here. How about female-wise? Female-wise, is it Dawn Staley? What female athlete that's graduated from UVA or matriculated through the university can also be a coach? What UVA female athlete would have the most influence if her name was on the marquee of a restaurant, the signage of a restaurant, a real estate group, a car dealership, or if her brand was utilized, her influence was leveraged to drive contributions to a private equity firm? Is it Dawn Staley, the one with the most recognition? I mean, Debbie Ryan is one. Dom Starch is a good suggestion, Kevin Yancey, the former lacrosse coach. He's not the current one, but that's a good one. Debbie Ryan or Dawn Staley? Which one has more recognition? Johnny Ornalis, Guadalajara, welcome to the program. Which one has more appeal or recognition? Staley, Dawn, Ryan, Debbie. I mean, from a soccer standpoint, you got Morgan, is it Morgan Bryan? U.S. national soccer team? Look at that, I should know that. Is that what it is? Scott Aaronworth? Played soccer at UVA. Why am I drawing a blank on her name? Morgan Scott, help me out with here. Is she top name recognition over Staley or Debbie Ryan? I think Chris, of all the ones that, especially since he lives in the community now, I saw him a couple Saturdays ago on a family day at the McIntyre Little League baseball park. My son's doing t-ball. A couple of big guys like Chris and his dad Howie are going to stand out around the McIntyre baseball park, across from the YMCA. The fact that Chris Long lives in the community, just like Ralph Sampson lives around this community, just like Tony Bennett lives around this community, makes that brand stand out even more. We see them at things. You see them at the baseball field for Little League games. You see Ralph Sampson at ribbon cutting events. I think Chris could do a steakhouse. He could do a car dealership. He could do name on a real estate group. His influence could undoubtedly be leveraged in a private equity standpoint to drive contributions to a fund of some kind, a PE fund of some kind. Of all the ones over the last couple generations, who's got a larger personal brand among UVA alumni? I mean, Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome were superstars, but can we say Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome's notoriety or star power, is it more significant than Chris Long's notoriety or star power? I don't think so. I don't think Malcolm Brogdon's, Joe Harris, Mike Scott, Kie Clark, any of these guys that are national champions, I don't think their notoriety is larger than Chris Long's. Anybody football can you think of? Heath Miller, Matt Schaub, Tiki Barber, Ronnie Barber, Marcus Hagans, their star power, their notoriety is not more significant, or nor does it have a larger orbit than Chris Long's among Virginia alumni or the Virginia fan base. Not even just alumni, but the fan base. If you want to roll out a library or a aggregation of businesses associating with someone's name, their personal brand, maybe it's a licensing agreement, maybe it's an agreement associated with profit sharing, or maybe it's an actual equity stake in the business. If they lend their name to the business, they get an equity stake in the company. Whatever way you set up this arrangement. I can't think of a coach or an athlete over the last couple generations, heck, 3 generations, Ralph played here in the early 80s, that would have more influence in driving customers or brand recognition and awareness than Chris Long. The only one that could potentially challenge him is not even a player, probably the coach, and that's Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett Steakhouse, Tony Bennett Mercedes, Tony Bennett Ford, Tony Bennett Real Estate Group, private equity. Those are the only 2 that I think are on the short list for me. Scott says in Virginia Beach, Dawn Staley would be my number 1 from a female standpoint. Chris Long would be what? Your number 1 from an overall standpoint, Scott Aaronworth? We remind everybody, and we're going to get to Alex Erpe here in a matter of moments, about the 231 Festival, Sunday, May 15th at Castle Hill Cider. Check out our Instagram, I Love Seville, for all the details on this. You got general admission tickets. You got a premium pass that lets you in an hour early. It's an opportunity to try wine, beer, and cider of the local variety with delicious food trucks, live music, and just a fantastic event at Castle Hill, Sunday, May 15th, the 231 Fest. Aaron Worf says Ralph over Chris Long. Scott's watching in Virginia Beach. Scott, spread the word about the 231 Festival in the Virginia Beach area, please. He says Ralph over Chris Long. I'll ask Alex Erpy that question in a matter of minutes. Alex, here's the question. He's in the green room right now. Of all the UVA athletes or coaches, which one would you build a library or an aggregation of businesses around his or her naming rights or image or personal brand? Like a steakhouse, Alex, an automobile dealership, Alex, a private equity firm where you're utilizing the star as kind of like dog and pony show to drive contributions to a fund. Maybe a real estate group, Sloan Manus. David Sloan used to be a college football player at UVA. Now his name atop the Sloan Manus marquee for his particular real estate group. That's a question I have for everybody watching the program. Before we get to Alex, a couple of other topics I want to bring up to you. Year over year, and this is national, and this is according to a 10-city composite index. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index tracks 10 cities in America. And it aggregates the data from 10 cities to form an index, the S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller National Home Price Index. According to this index, home prices year over year, February versus February, 2021 versus 2022, jumped 19.8%. Good Lord. 19.8% year over year. Locally, we've seen values increase in that neighborhood across Central Virginia. You go into your house, you sleep on a pillow, you wake up in the morning, you take a shower, you use the restroom, you go to work, and you come back. Your home values have jumped 20%. $400,000 house, $500,000 now. $1 million house last year, $1.2 million now. All you did was paid your mortgage, slept on your pillow, used the bathroom, ate your food, and you got 20% appreciation on your crib. That is bananas. And undoubtedly a reflection of this pandemic, undoubtedly a reflection of people leaving the skilled labor trades, undoubtedly a reflection of cost of goods being in short supply, which is driving up prices, and undoubtedly an increase or undoubtedly an attribution to millennials coming in force purchasing real estate across the country. $1 million home in February of 2021 is $1.2 million in February of 2022. A $400,000 house last year is a $500,000 house now. People pay their mortgage. They took 12 months of reducing principal, and they enjoy 20% of appreciation or value, often of their number one asset in their portfolio, their house. That is bananas. One other topic for you, my friends, and I'm going to bring this up with Alex as well. Folks are freaking out about Musk buying Twitter. I don't get the freak out about Musk buying Twitter. Musk is going to make the platform, he's going to make it better. He's going to make it the water cooler for the world. It's going to prioritize free speech. I've said many times on the show, and this has nothing to do about Republican or Democrat. This has everything to do about what the hell is going on. How does Putin, the Russian warmongering dictator, still allowed to have an account on Twitter, yet Twitter banned former President Donald Trump from the platform? You flummoxed by that, Judah? I'm flummoxed by that. You're not flummoxed by that? You got a little smile on your face when you heard that.
Oh, the smile was because I think I like the way you pronounce Putin.
Do you think it's odd?
Yeah, it's definitely odd.
Right?
Yeah.
And don't you think that Musk buying Twitter is going to make the platform better? If you disagree with me, please, I'm cool with that too. But
no, I think it will. I appreciate his stance on making it a free speech platform, whether or not he's actually
sincere.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't always been 100% free speech in other areas, so who knows? But maybe he's altruistically gonna open up Twitter and stop the censorship. That would be great. But who knows?
I think he's going to utilize Twitter as he should, in vertically integrated capacity, to drive some awareness for Tesla and to SpaceX, as he should.
Well, it's not going to be. I mean, opening it up as a free speech platform isn't going to make it his personal. I mean, he'll still be able to tweet. I don't think it's going to become his personal.
It's not going to be his personal vehicle for his other businesses.
Yeah, it's not going to be the place where he advertises everything, and it becomes
a shill.
Yeah, it's not going to be Tesla with a. I mean, Twitter with a Tesla T.
Oh, that was good. Very nicely done there, Judah Wickar. Very nicely done. He's going to look to monetize it. Expect
maybe
he's going to monetize. He's got to monetize it.
He doesn't have to.
And I understand the dude's the wealthiest man in the world. But how much did he invest in this, Alex? Was it $53 billion?
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe 40, 50 billion.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't put that kind of wealth. And why don't we get Alex? Why don't we get you in the mix here on the isosceles or the equilateral triangle of content on the show? Alex Zerpe is about to be in the mix here, CEO of Emergent Financial Services. We'll talk about this with him. $44 billion deal. $44 billion. It's the world's richest man. $44 billion, regardless of how wealthy this dude is a boatload of money.
It's still, and it is a 31% premium.
Yeah.
Over return, like with the prices before he announced anything.
Right. Which I think he had to pay a premium.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, in other words, you don't pay 30% more for something than its face worth and say, hey, I'm just going to lose 30%.
Yeah, he's going to look to make money on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's 3-shot here. Let's talk about it. What do you make of Musk buying Twitter?
So I think it's a very interesting move. I mean, it's very, let's put it this way. First off, it's rather unusual. You do not often see companies go from public to essentially private. It goes the other way around. You get IPOs.
We've mentioned a few on air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got, this came up on the morning show, Panera Bread.
Yep.
Is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Burger King is a good example of something that was public that went private.
Yep.
We talked about some others. We rattled off 10 or 12. It does happen.
Yeah, but it definitely makes news when it does. And the interesting thing here is just what it remains to be seen. I know what's interesting is Tesla actually is down a little bit today. Twitter is essentially flat. It hasn't moved too much. So the interesting thing will be where does Musk's focus go? Because he has Tesla, he has SpaceX, he has Twitter. I think he has at least one other company.
Yeah, he's got the internet company.
He's got the internet company. So he now has these different areas, and his ideas certainly for Twitter, I think from a user standpoint, are pretty intriguing. I mean, in an era of transparency, I think it would be very interesting and almost a shot across the bow to some of the other tech companies if indeed he does go through with making the algorithm public. In other words, you can see, because so much of big tech is shrouded in, when I log into Twitter or I log into Google and I search for something, how much of what my results are, am I actually getting the top result, or am I getting something that the algorithm has pushed to the top for reasons that are not public to me? In other words, the algorithms claim to be, well, this gets pushed up because more people are viewing it or because it's a legitimate website. But there is a lot of doubt in people's minds, I think, at this point, saying, well, how do I know that's true? How do I know that this algorithm isn't pushing someone's agenda, or someone has paid Google to manipulate the algorithm so that this comes up first? So I think what's interesting is that if he goes through with this and people are able to see, okay, this is exactly how Twitter decides what shows up at the top of my feed, that I think will have the potential to try to force the other tech companies to say, you know what, how long can we not be as transparent as we claim to be? So I think that'll be an interesting move if he goes through with it. Again, a lot of this is if he goes through with what he's saying. But that might be an interesting move, tracking down to the bots, verification of humans. An interesting move. I've heard also subscription model.
Yeah.
He might be looking at, which would be very interesting because it would sort of change, because let's face it, for most of tech, since it's free, the product being sold is us. We're being sold to advertisers. Our data, our eyeballs are being sold to advertisers. If he swaps that to a subscription model, we cease to be that which is being sold, and we become, in essence, the consumer again, which would be an interesting change in the industry from where a lot of tech has gone.
I would pay a subscription fee if it comes up. If we get the opportunity to edit tweets. I mean, our Twitter platforms all across the board, I think we're an aggregation of 17 accounts. We have a little over 37,000 followers across those accounts. They have value for us, and I understand monetizing value. For those that are asking, a couple other examples, Dell Computers went public to private.
Yep.
H.J. Heinz, public to private. Joann Stores, Hilton Worldwide Holdings, public to private. Judah, Musk and Twitter. Thoughts on what we're covering over here with the Antonio Banderas of finance, Alex Zerpe?
I don't know if he's going to monetize it as heavily as you guys seem to think. I think he's doing this more as almost like a snub, and I think he really does want to make it a platform for free speech. And how much really, I feel like if he starts monetizing things, I know a lot of people would be pretty disgusted if he if Elon Musk were to make some pretty big changes to Twitter, say adding a subscription model, he might end up losing a lot of people on it.
A lot of Democrats have already dropped from closed Twitter accounts since Musk has made this purchase. That is well documented. The number of high-level Democrats that have closed accounts on Twitter since Musk made the bold move of buying Twitter. We'll cut to the chase.
Somebody doesn't like free speech.
Well, we'll cut to the chase. I have no comment on that. We'll cut to the chase. Twitter's been underperforming. It's been the afterthought social media platform for years now.
Absolutely.
Facebook and Meta, with their many brands, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, their market leader, Snapchat and TikTok, have eaten Twitter's lunch. YouTube, owned by Google, is a category leader in video. I mean, YouTube in a lot of ways. My wife utilizes YouTube like folks utilize Google. Some around the house that need to get done, she's searching YouTube.
You're looking for a video on it.
And a 90-second video gives her answer. Like fixing the ice machine was clogged the other day. We weren't sure if it was broken. She put in the model number of the fridge, YouTubed it. There was, here's a whole how-to guide to fix it. She had it fixed. So your thoughts on this? Anywhere you want to go on this, Alex?
Twitter, I mean, from both the financial and I think sort of a marketing standpoint, Twitter has lagged behind the others. I mean, there's no doubt that, to be honest, even if you looked at the trajectory of Twitter, minus the blip in 2016 through 2020 when Donald Trump was on Twitter, the trajectory was usually downward. So you had a little blip where, for whatever reason, he drove tons of people there. There was always Twitter things going on that kind of pushed their viewership up, and then their numbers have not been great on either side of that 4-year blip. And so I think it's not surprising. You run into the issue with Twitter where it really is not the go-to for news, to be honest. I mean, very breaking news, but as people have been joking recently, even the employees at Twitter found out on the later end of what was happening to their own company. in a
Yeah.
sense, right? So it's neither the breaking news nor really the number one. I mean, if you're searching for information, you are not searching for information on Twitter, right? Regardless of how much Twitter may attempt to crack down on misinformation, you're just not searching for information on Twitter. You're not searching for the answer to questions on there. So it definitely, he has his work cut out for him if he's going to make it, I think, a more viable platform, either from a sort of cultural standpoint or from a financial standpoint, because they've also been the least successful, I think, at monetizing, at actually translating
For sure.
their eyeballs into profit. I mean, we know what Google and Facebook have done to translate eyeballs into profit, but Twitter has been much less successful at that.
Neil Williamson, I love that question. Neil Williamson has this. Considering the recent Netflix drop, do you believe subscription services are on the ropes? Great question. I'm
that is a
tagging
good
him on
question.
this. Here's my take on this. We'll get Alex's take, Judah's take on this as well. Netflix had a significant drop last week because of poor earnings. Netflix also has a couple of headwinds. The first obvious headwind is the streaming space is incredibly saturated right now, to the point where CNN Plus had like a week of shelf life before they shut it
Focus
down.
down.
And that was hundreds of millions of dollars of investment into that streaming service. You look at streaming, you got Netflix, you got Amazon, you got HBO, you got Disney, you got the ESPN platform. There's so much. Another thing Netflix has going against it is the sharing of passwords.
Yeah, the crackdown on that.
They're going to crack down on that, and that's going to have a huge impact. You take my family alone, and we have one Netflix account, and it's being utilized by a household in Long Island, one in Stamford, Connecticut, and one in Keswick, Virginia. One account. As soon as Netflix tracks subscriptions to IP addresses, or however they're going to do it,
Yeah, or maybe a text or
something like it could be a
phone, or
text.
like a two-step verification, I should say.
Great call. Two-step verification. As soon as that happens, we're going to see considerably more additional subscription revenue on the books.
I don't know about that.
I'm not.
One other
really
thing, and
convinced
then
on
you
that.
jump in. You guys jump in. Both jump in. These guys disagree. I love this. Great stuff. Lastly, I think Netflix is going to utilize ad placement within its platform. So instead of seeing, what's a good Netflix series that's on Netflix right now? What Netflix series is any of you guys
Really
watching?
bad. I'm on the old.
I watch a lot of Netflix series. I'm
grandfathered
drawing
Netflix.
the Tinder Swindler. Okay, the Tinder Swindler.
Tinder
Okay, that was actually a movie. Netflix series. Oh, The Ozarks.
Okay.
Let's take The Ozarks. So Netflix right now, and then you guys jump in here. They do a season dump of episodes. So if you want to watch season 3 of whatever show you're watching on Netflix,
just watch
all the shows are released at the same time. And then people go on these freaking benders.
Yeah.
I do, my wife does. And next thing you know, you've lost a week of your life. And then you feel disgusted with yourself. And you say, I need to turn or cancel this subscription or put it on pause. I would not be surprised if we see Netflix release episodes in staccato format, keeping people stickier to the platform, perhaps over the course of a few months. Lastly, I would not be surprised if the Ozarks, if you want to watch season 3, episode 1, and then episode 2, where you may have to sit between 60 seconds of commercials before episode 2 plays. You guys disagree with me. I love it for the sake of a talk show. Alex, you go first. J-Dubs, go next.
No, I'll let Judah. I'm sure Judah might be thinking the same thing. My suspicion is your demand for something is very high when it's free. Your demand drops for it when it ceases to be free. So I'm not convinced that all the people that are sharing other people's passwords right now will necessarily pay the amount to be on Netflix themselves. Is just my contemplation there.
1995, maybe he's right. 1999 or 1995 a lot. That's not cheap,
That's not cheap.
especially during times of inflation. Your thoughts on this topic, J-Dubs?
Yeah, if you eliminated everybody that is using somebody else's account, I think you would see a tiny fraction of them actually get their own accounts. It's more a matter, you'd probably end up, I think the big problem is that they want to do like everything. So they want to have, all these great series, but then guess what? Your series is never going to last longer than 2 seasons. So, and yes, I know that there are series that have gone beyond 2 seasons, but there are so many more, innumerable numbers of good shows that because people, the same problem, having it all at once.
They get fatigued.
Yep.
You get fatigued.
Not only get fatigued, but there's so much on there. I mean, I really don't have an answer for any of this, but they cut shows that don't immediately, if they go from season 1 to season 2 and lose subscribers, the show is ended. So you're looking at, I think the platform kind of becomes this quicksand. There's no it used to be you'd go to ABC or NBC or whatever.
For appointment television.
You'd have your show that came on and continued for years. And you might have 5 or 10 or even 15 years of this same show. And it became a part of your family life. And now it's just this snap and it's gone. Like, you just watch stuff. It's just consumerism. It doesn't have, there's no
loyalty.
There's no loyalty in anything. It's just like, oh, I want to watch this show. And so what do you get? You get people who will binge all their shows, like wait until Disney has 5 or 6 great shows, get on Disney, binge all those shows, and then
cancel.
drop the account.
Great take right there, Judah Wickhauer. That was excellent.
And so people are just finding ways around, if it comes down to it, if you cut everybody who's using someone else's account, they'll just go over to their friend's house. Let's wait till this great show comes out, and then we'll all watch it at your house.
Of all the streaming services, and we'll go on to the next topic too, of all the streaming services, would you not say that this is clear-cut market leader?
Netflix, I would think so at this point. Them or Prime. I mean, the one advantage that Amazon has
Is the shipping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can get people onto Prime. Like, my family is on Amazon Prime. Not because of the
Content.
but
Same with
basically
us.
for the shipping and the Whole Foods discount.
Yeah.
It's an additional bonus, so you'll go check it. But I think Judah's right in terms of
Our family
the
too, Alex.
proliferation of information, in the sense of there is that. Amazon has seen it too when they do their studies on how people view Amazon. There is so much that people get confused.
It's like a
Because
Chinese food menu.
Exactly. You search for a basketball and you get 100 possibilities.
I
Dude,
will literally spend an hour
that happens to me.
scrolling through, and I might put 5 or 6 things on my list, but I won't watch any of them.
That literally happens to us.
I don't feel like any of those, and so by the end of an hour, I just shut it off.
That
And
happens
I've got
to us.
5 more shows on my list that I'll probably never watch.
So that literally happens to me. It's overwhelming of options to the point where my better half is the one who picks the content we watch, because she will not go down 3 or 4 rows of content. You know how you're scrolling down to the
Yep.
different rows of choices?
Yep.
She'll go down like 3 rows and have a decision made, where I'm literally going through every row, sliding all the way to the right till it's done, then down a row and sliding all the way through the right.
Before you
And
know it,
then-
that whole hour's done.
before I know, it's like literally 20 minutes is gone. To your point right there, Judah. So are subscription services dated? Neil Williamson's question.
I'm not sure they're dated forever. What I think what we're seeing is that subscription services are things that go down in inflationary times. I think you cannot overestimate the impact of inflation on these things, because this is the first thing that you cut. We talked about this, actually. Keith mentioned it last week. What did he do when things were
He
tight?
cut like $200 a month.
He went down and said,
Yeah.
I don't watch this enough to justify the $8.99 anymore. Cut. I don't watch this enough to justify $20 a month anymore. Cut. The subscription is going to be the first one to go, because it's down on your list of needs, right? It's something that when times are good, you'll pay for it even if you don't use it sufficiently. Let's face it, that's where Netflix and these other subscriptions are going to make their money, right?
Yeah.
They're going to make their money
Auto bill.
with the auto bill, and the people that either use it occasionally and just forget that they're even paying for it, Or by the time you remember, because they always be at the beginning of the month, by the time you remember, it's like, now I might as well wait to the end of the month to cancel because
And then you forget again.
And then you
and
forget
then you
again.
forget again.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think as the more conscious people are about their expenses in times like this, that's going to be the first to go. I don't know if it'll be done forever because it still does hold one big advantage over your traditional cable, which is A, it's cheaper, and B, you don't get locked into a contract with it. So, I mean, you will always have people that will gravitate towards that because they do not want to be locked in for cable for a certain number of years at a much higher price than that.
So after Keith brought this up, I did a little research on this. Intuit has got an auto bill auditor called Mint Life. It's an app, and it allows you to quickly assess what your cards are getting auto billed for. Because so many people, me included, you get these auto bills and it's just a line item on your credit card statement or your debit card statement, your bank statement.
And usually it's hidden in obfuscating language like, PRG, whatever group. And you're like, what the heck is that? And you're like, oh, it's Paramount?
Yep.
How would I ever find that if I was looking for Paramount?
And never on the same day. It's not that they all come in on the 31st. They say, here's all my streaming to add up.
Yeah.
One's the 15th, one's the 2nd, one's the 3rd. So it's very difficult for people to sometimes to realize how much is being taken out of their credit card on a monthly basis.
Johnny Ornalis, we'll get to your comment here. Neil makes a very good point. The bundled offerings have the best opportunity to survive. A good example of this is The Atlantic, a sports publication, recently purchased by the New York Times company. New York Times company recently purchased Wordle.
Yep.
Remember the game that was all the rage? So the New York Times company is offering, with a subscription to its newspaper, also you get The Atlantic, you get Wordle, you get all these additional gravy trains. Prime is trying to do that, how you identify with Whole Foods,
Yep.
Washington Post, video content and shipping. Prime has become a bundled service. Maybe the future for Netflix is not as a standalone platform. Perhaps, and I'm sure he's thinking about this, Reed Hastings is thinking, what if we bundle with an HBO Max? What if we bundle with a media outlet or some kind of other service to further fortify our value proposition for customers? Ornalis says this, J.O., we love you, J.O., owner of Guadalajara and El Mariachi. With two small kids, Netflix and YouTube, I pay subscription because I don't worry about commercials that would not be age appropriate for my girls. Johnny, we're the same way
That's a
with our
great
son,
point.
Trey. Same way with our
That's a
son.
great point.
We include Disney in there, and I'm sure you do as well, J.O., Disney. So to the point where I'll put this in perspective. Initially, our son was watching YouTube proper. They have a YouTube Kids. But there was just the YouTube app. And the YouTube app, we could start with content that is age appropriate. But he quickly, he's 4 years old. At 2, he figured out swiping and changing to additional and new content. So where he started watching YouTube and watching Blippy, you familiar with Blippy on YouTube?
Of course not.
It's like the kids' version of Mr. Rogers now. Blippy is Mr. Rogers 2022. So he's watching Blippy. But for some reason on YouTube proper, you know how you go into this like hole of content?
Yep, before you know it.
He's swiping up on other things, and he's watching teenagers play video games and a machine gunning people down. And was then having bad dreams of a machine gun. I know.
Poor thing.
And it's literally because he went from Blippy to, they stream video game playing now. And it's, the player was machine gunning
Of
people.
course. Oh,
It was bananas, and he's talking about bad dreams of machine guns. So anyway, the bundled service, good call. J.O., good call.
that's absolutely the case. And it's why, to be honest, let's be real, it's kind of why cable is still alive. Every time my family goes to cut cable, we're like, wait a second, by the time we pay for phone and internet, It's so expensive.
The
that
cable's
you might
like
as well just
$4.
get the bundle. You might as
Yeah.
well just pay for the extra bundle to get the cable. Because otherwise you're sitting there, you're already paying all this money for phone and internet, which you can't really do without.
Is that the Xfinity bundle you guys have?
Basically.
Very nice, very nice. What does that run? Do you know what that runs a month?
What is it now?
Is it 2 bills plus a month?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
That's about it was when I
200,
cut the cord.
200 a month or something. And especially in Charlotte, where we're not as fortunate, my aunt up in New York can always threaten to leave because there's like 7 of them up there.
Yeah, what
So
there's
she always gets the
Optimum.
deals. Optima Spectrum.
Is it Fios up there?
Fios.
Yeah.
Once you have another, she always threatens to leave and she gets them to give her the deals. But
Nice.
here, you're just kind of stuck with it.
Carol Thorpe, the Queen of Jack Jewett, giving you props, Judah, on the little zinger to the Dems, the Democrats that you made. She says nothing wrong with commenting on the exodus of free speech and the Democrats leading the platform. Thank you, Judah, for bringing that up. Important observation, she says. All right, I want to get markets and what we just saw there. But before we do, the UVA athlete with the most name recognition or notoriety, if you wanted to build an aggregation or a library of businesses.
And you said athlete or coach.
Or coach.
Because my first guess would be Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett.
Would get the biggest.
Over Chris.
Right now, over in this area, probably over Chris.
Tony Bennett. So what would you do if you had Tony Bennett's ear and you said, Coach Bennett, CTB, we would love to build a library of businesses using your naming rights.
I mean, you go first with the retail stuff. So you've got to get you do your restaurant just like they did on Barrett's.
Okay.
You do visual things work better. So you probably do your restaurant, maybe do your car dealership. Mm-hmm. Things where people can be enticed to come in off the road
Yeah.
because they see it or they think, because let's be real, part of the big brand with someone who's alive is that they hope that they'll see them there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's got to be places where he could reasonably be expected to make an appearance every once in a while. So probably those would be probably where I would start. Restaurants and maybe some kind of activity, and car dealership.
Yeah.
My big ones.
Tony Bennett could pull that off, undoubtedly. Chris Long, Tony Bennett, the 2 winners so far. Dude, what is Senor Erpe, what is happening right now with markets? We got, as of now, 1:24 p.m.
It's
Obviously,
down
markets will close at
still.
4. Dude, Dow's down 1.73, S&P 2 points plus, NASDAQ is hemorrhaging 3 plus.
3 plus, yep.
Russell 2K at 2. Volatility across the board. What's happening?
Right,
The
the-
April sell-off is obvious.
Oh, it's been huge. I mean, it's just continued even worse than the first quarter at this point. This is definitely what we call correction territory, in the sense of we're looking at as a very nervous market that is not quite sure what is happening. They are seeing, again, you're seeing high inflation. You're seeing PPI running higher than CPI, which means you kind of expect higher inflation in the coming months. You are seeing some people are worrying about signs of slowdown. The truck sales were down, and sometimes some people claim that as a leading indicator. That seems a little too small for me to definitively say, oh, truck sales are down, recession is coming. But I think Xavier and I both feel similar on this. We're definitely seeing the signs of what is potentially a slow growth period. Whether that means GDP turns negative and you get an actual recession is still, I think, too early to say. But you're looking at the conditions of a slow growth period, which is not something anybody wants to see, although that's preferable to the alternative. And the market, I think, is just very jittery right now, especially with tech, it is not surprising. Tech is very much the opposite of a defensive stock. Tech is a cyclical stock. When things look really good, right, tech does well, or when things are in the position in a very, how do I put this, in a very unusual position in terms of COVID pushing everyone home. Tech did really well in 2020, 2021. I mean, you should argue tech did too well. I mean, you had some tech companies trading at levels that probably were not justified by the actual earnings they had and the long-term potential of earnings that they had. In other words, were people doing things temporarily during the pandemic tech-wise that they wouldn't do otherwise. I mean, you may be all gung-ho on Peloton when you're stuck at home for 9 months, but you might not be gung-ho on Peloton for the rest of your life, kind of thing. So I think what we're seeing is tech falling down and maybe a sit little to defensive shift that we're seeing here, which really began last year. Last year, value did much better than growth. This year, you're probably going to see defensive. I mean, not even just value, because the S&P 500 is also doing poorly, but a move to defensive itself, defensive stocks, just because people are nervous and they want to. It's also, it's also a bit of a trifecta here in the sense of very rarely do bonds and stocks move in the same direction because of market nervousness and the Federal Reserve raising rates and the expectation of future rate hikes. Bond yields have gone up, which pushes bond prices down. So if you are a senior or you're someone looking at your 401k, you're sitting there saying, oh my goodness, everything is down.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be sitting in a very conservative, let's say you were in a really conservative portfolio, you're sitting there saying, I had 70% bonds, 30% stocks. You're sitting there saying, my portfolio is still down. My portfolio is still down 10%. Why did I put it all in bonds? Now, granted, long term, if you don't sell, your bonds will, right? Bonds have to come back at some point when those bonds and those funds mature. You will get your principal back, right?
Sure.
So it's not a bond going down mathematically will not stay down. A stock can be different. But for the time being, that creates a lot of anxiety in people. When you sit there and say, my portfolio is down, stocks and bonds, I don't want to sell my bonds, I might sell my stocks.
So what's the play? Hold and wait it out?
Pretty much. You do not want to sell in these conditions. If
You're going to take a bath if you do.
Yeah, you will. And there's really no reason. The number one mistake that people could have made in 2008 was to sell.
Was to peace out.
Because they lost out on 200% worth of gains that came out afterwards. Right? So you have to be steady. If your portfolio is generating income, this is one of those reasons, Xavier, I mean, sometimes we sound like a broken record talking about income generation and interest and dividends. But if your portfolio is generating income, this is where you use that income to buy low. In other words, that's the whole purpose of having some kind of income generation in a portfolio. But if you do not have any income generation, let's say you were fully invested in stocks and you have no additional cash, you just
wait it out.
You wait it out. If you think your portfolio is too aggressive for you regardless of the situation. So in other words, you really have to sort of put your blinders on and say, let me look at my portfolio. Pretend I don't know anything that's happening in the market. Is this portfolio, as currently constructed, too risky for me? If the answer is yes, you switch from growth to defensive. You make it less risky. Right? But do not be blinded by what's out there. In other words, if you thought 3-4 months ago that this portfolio was the right risk for you, don't suddenly think it's too risky because everything's down 10%. In other words, that's the wrong way to look at it. Your risk does not depend on what's going on outside in the markets. Your risk depends on your personal situation, your own portfolio. So that's what you really need to be looking at and make that decision. If it's too risky, reduce the risk. Otherwise, leave it just where it is.
Anything you want to add to this, J-Dubs?
Yeah, you don't lose money until you sell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, unless you were planning on using some of that stuff for, liquid cash purposes anyways.
Wait it out.
Really, what reason would you have to sell when stuff starts going down? I mean, it's like, it's the same with property or anything. It's like, if you've got an investment and it's going to take time to mature, don't freak out when like a quarter of the way through the time that you thought you were going to hold it for, it's not worth what you thought it was going to be worth. It's like, okay, well, it's an investment. Hold on to it and wait, see what happens once it's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
You did well today. Excellent work today, Judah. Today, Manana airs Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille network. This man is fantastic, not only in finance, but not only in donating time to nonprofits as a board member, but he's also a very refined broadcaster.
Oh, thank you.
He is a great pace setter, and number one. You do the show with Xavier, the closer, the Mariano Rivera of finance. He's not Cubano, Mariano Rivera.
He's Panamanian.
He's Panamanian, and we love him, nevertheless. What is Today y Mañana going to do on Thursday?
Today we're not just going to be great on Thursday. We're going to have Lute and Maddie from Hazy Mountain. So Lute is the winemaker, and Maddie is the events coordinator from Hazy Mountain Vineyard.
You guys have done an excellent job of getting alcoholic beverages brought to you in the morning. Today y Mañana.
maybe Nick is just our CMO maybe it's his first thought, which is unusual that we do not drink.
Yeah, Hazy Mountain on Thursday.
Hazy Mountain on
I love
Thursday
it.
morning,
I love
followed by, we're going to have on Rob Campbell of Castle Hill Cider and Millie Winstead of Blue Ridge Food Bank to talk about 231 Festival, because that fantastic festival is coming up on May 15th. So we're going to talk with Rob from Castle Hill, who's involved, obviously, as well as Millie. She's going to talk about obviously, Blue Ridge Food Bank is going to be greatly benefited by this festival. So just have them both on. And so it'll be two fantastic segments, a little nonprofit, which I love, and a little learning about winemakers and cider makers in our region. It's always what's up when Rob comes on. It's always
Rob is the man. MJ's watching from Castle Hill. Some platforms will let you watch until the end of the month, even if you cancel in the middle of the month. We've done it more than once with FUBU for March Madness. And Blippi is something else. It's included, Jerry, on Amazon Prime, and my 4-year-old loves it. Our 4-year-old loves it as well, MJ.
Can I just say, I loved that moment when you said to Judah, are you familiar with Blimpie? And he goes, of course not.
I know. His dry humor.
Classic humor.
Yeah, he deadpans that. Yeah, of course not.
Of course not.
Yeah, Judah.
How would I know Blimpie?
I don't know. I mean, maybe you know. You know about a lot of stuff. Of course not. Dude, you're awesome. This guy is
awesome.
A+ people. Alex Erpy. The firm is Emergent Financial Services, the firm you can count on to build your wealth and help you to retirement. Emergent Financial Services. Judah Wickower is our director, brother from another mother. I'm Jerry Miller. We encourage you to watch Today y Mañana Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. right here on the I Love CVille Network. Guys, thank you for joining us. We'll see you at 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. Take care. Well done.
Fun one.
Yeah. Good job, Judah. You're
Can't
on
beat
point
the
tonight.
equilateral triangle.
Oh, I love it. I love it.